All right, so our next story here is titled, "My Sister is Infertile and I'm Glad."
This is actually not an AITA story.
Not an AITA story.
This was like a off my chest or something like that.
Okay, so we're not going to pass any AITA or ascon scale judgments here, or maybe we will.
Oh, we're going to talk about it.
We'll just provide some feedback and see what happens here, okay?
Somebody tagged us in this story on TikTok and asked that we please do it. Please cover it.
Here we are.
I listened to it and I was like, oh my gosh.
It's intense.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's crazy.
So let's rock and roll. I, 28 female, have an older sister, Angela, 30 female, whom I have never liked. She always had to compete with me, but never in a normal sibling rivalry way. Our entire life she seemed resentful of my existence as the spotlight couldn't perpetually shine on her, so she had to step on everything I enjoyed. Per se, if I learned piano, she had to learn piano. If I excelled at a subject, she suddenly became a scholar in it. If I told my mom I had a crush, Angela would be dating that boy in a week. I would always tell my parents when she did this, but I was disregarded because sisters copy each other, and I can't gatekeep what she likes. She always monitored what activities I did and the clothes I wore, so she could outdo me. If I wore a flannel, Angela would come to the school wearing an all-flannel dress. It was 2010, and that was in peak fashion in our school, LMAO. There was also more praise that followed Angela. Even if I took the initiative to begin the activity first, she was praised because she was better. My parents would miss work to attend her dance recitals, going to every single one, because the world would stop if they missed it. However, I remember maybe 2 of mine they attended because they were stuck at work or were otherwise occupied. Angela reveled in this. She would make comments under her breath about our parents. Whenever our parents weren't around, she'd tell me how much she hated me and how I should stop trying because I would always come second to her. She also physically bullied me in school. Angela purposely tripped me, threw things at me, and hit me in the hallways on a nearly daily basis. The school had gotten involved multiple times, threatening Angela with suspension, and my parents fought it every time. My parents repeatedly told the administration that this was a family matter and we were just bickering like normal sisters. What was happening at school, though, right?
Yes, she did mention in the comments that they were in a private school, and their parents were donors in this school.
Okay, so they had some say in punishment then.
Yep.
She was never once reprimanded by either parent. Once Angela was caught impaling a cat on the school fence, and my parents still defended her, saying this was normal teenage behavior.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. No, it gets worse.
Normal teenage serial killer behavior.
Yeah, this is...
I often was in trouble as Angela would start crying, saying how she was being targeted by the school when I had antagonized her. After one of these occasions, Angela cut and bruised herself to prove to Dad that I was the aggressor. Holy shitballs. Okay. I became a pariah due to Angela's malicious rumors about me, so it was difficult for me to make friends. I resorted to only befriending people from other districts. Angela eventually made sure I had nobody by stalking them, befriending them, telling all my friends lies about how I was favored by our parents, and I constantly bullied and belittled her. She even stole boyfriends of mine doing this, convincing them I was horribly mean and an awful person that copied her every move. Once she catfished me on MySpace for 4 months and baited me into sending her nudes, which she proceeded to send my parents and everyone in school, including teachers. Holy shit. Later
stuff
on,
from like Pretty Little Liars, like Gossip Girl type stuff.
This is a script for a show.
Yeah.
Later on, she told one of the boys I liked that those were actually her pictures and I had catfished her. The day of my high school graduation, my mom sat me down and told me Angela revealed the horrid abuse she'd suffered at my hand and I was no longer welcome in their home. After moving out the next day, my parents made a very few attempts to communicate with me, only the occasional holiday and birthday text. All financial aid also abruptly ended as soon as I stepped foot on campus. I met my now husband shortly after this, and we were married within a year. They did not feel inclined to attend my wedding or even congratulate me. I informed my parents when I had my first child 8 years ago as an opening, but they made no attempt to contact or meet any of my 3 children. Best I know of Angela now from what I've heard is that she got married to one of the boyfriends she stole from me in high school, and she's been posting about her infertility issues and how she can't offer my parents their first grandbaby. After years of silence, I received a text at 8 this morning from my mother that I will copy and paste below. Hey, it's me, your mama. We haven't talked in a while and I surely miss you terribly. I wanted to let you know your sister just had a miscarriage earlier this week. Angie and Justin are struggling a lot right now. Send something a little sweet her way. I'm sure she'd appreciate it. Get back to me. I love you. this all seems.
Yeah, so weird. No, but
super
you find
twisted.
out why she sent the text. Sorry, I'm like the one in the movie.
Hey, you know the ending of the story. Quit it.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Quit it. Don't be a spoiler. I hate to say it, but I'm glad she's suffering. I'm glad she doesn't get to be a mother. If she tormented me for years, what would she do to a child, especially a girl? I don't wish death on any baby, but I know in my heart that a child would be damaged by her. I'm angry at my parents expecting me to have any sense of obligation to her. I don't even have any sense of obligation to them. They always believed her and dismissed me. I was always the problem child, and it's strange how my mother can be so warm to me when asking me to do something for my sister. Also, the fact that they cared more about my sister's now dead fetus than my actual children, who wonder why they only have one set of grandparents. I feel some sort of guilt for it, but I refuse to offer any condolences to my destructive, narcissistic sister who has been justified in her bad behavior since birth. Maybe this will change her. Help her develop empathy or any type of emotion that isn't hate or vindictiveness. If that happens, I would be more than willing to offer support, but until then, I feel nothing but a small inkling of happiness that she's hurt. Am I awful for this? Update. Hey, I'm back with an update. I wanted to thank all of y'all sincerely for the comments, awards, and personal messages I've received. I feel very emotional knowing that my account of my childhood is finally being believed and met with warmth and support. It's been hard for me to talk about, as many believe I'm being disingenuous or overdramatic. It's hard to believe, so I get it. So really, thank you all from the bottom of my heart. I decided not to respond to my mother. I blocked both of my parents and thought it would end there, but when does it ever? Wednesday morning, my messenger was being flooded with texts from my parents and siblings. Most of the messages consisted of me being told I needed to answer my mother's calls and how callous I was continuing to be. I proceeded to block all of them as well. My cousin heard this from her younger sister, who is subject to being around my parents and Angela for family dinners. My mother and her siblings all live within a couple of blocks from each other and eat together most nights. I don't know if I can post the screenshot, so I'll type out the messages. Aunt Kathy equals my mom. I hope that makes this easier to understand. Angela kept calling you an abusive ingrate because you wouldn't talk to your mom. Your mom said that they need to start inviting you to family shit so you come around to being a surrogate. It got weird because Angela said she wants to use my husband's sperm so her kid is tall and has blue eyes. Then your mom was saying how they just need to be around her for like a year and then they can cut her off again. Angela kept saying that you are the only way that she can have kids because she doesn't want to raise someone's trash baby. Reading those messages made me want to hurl. Do they think my uterus is some fish hatchery that can be bought with some kind words and casserole? It's nice to know Angela is too much of a narcissistic ass to adopt, though. I'm officially done with every single one of them. If they try to come around me, I will get a restraining order before they can even darken my doorstep. Between the weak conspiracy they've come up with to try to use me like a baby bargain bin and the nasty words that continue to speak about me, I will no longer claim to have a family outside the one I've created. I'm sorry if this is difficult to read, but reading that again just got me so worked up. But y'all finally got the update you asked for. So that's the silver lining of this, I guess. Anyway, thank you guys again. Holy shit. Okay.
Yeah, it's insane.
Okay. So there are like 37 levels of twisted assholery to this. So she had a sister who
is clearly a psychopath or sociopath.
Was jealous of everything that she ever did and had to outdo her or take it from her, to the point that she was harming herself to say that she did it and her parents bought it all, ended up kicking her out of the house when she was 18?
That's what it sounded like. She had just graduated high school.
Yep. And then we're just completely no contact with her. Just cut her out of their life because their psychotic daughter had them convinced that she was the villain here, and now has them convinced to try to loop her back in just so she can borrow her uterus?
Yeah, it's insane. And then she wants to use her husband's sperm in order to have the baby. Yeah, this was one of the most up stories I have ever heard in my life.
This is a movie script.
It is.
Like, it is.
It legitimately sounds like an episode of Gossip Girl and Pretty Little Liars, like combined together to like create this. And if this was, legitimately her childhood, like, wow. I can't imagine what kind of emotional baggage she brings into therapy, because that's just hard to live through.
Well, and imagine finding happiness and building a stable family without them, and then the ghost of crazy family past comes back to haunt you just over and over again to try to pull you back in to just completely take advantage of you. The sister obviously has some serious issues going on, but the parents...
They just believe her without, like, to a fault. I mean, they just believe everything that she says.
They're enablers. It's shocking to me, though, that they were enablers to the point that they were willing to cut off their own daughter to enable the other daughter. That's what's shocking to me. It's like, at what point here did you not have questions? At what point here was it just like...
They just believe every word that came out of her mouth without, like, any kind of investigation into the truth. It was just like, oh, this is what she said.
Why would you believe one but not the other, though?
I don't know.
Just because she had built this repetition?
I mean, we've read stories about parents having that golden child, and maybe in their eyes this was the golden child and she could do no wrong.
The golden demon child?
Yeah.
This is wild. But I think the sister obviously has some twisted shit going on. But the parents, I think, are the biggest assholes in this story. I mean, obviously the sister is. The sister's evil.
No, I think the mom is too, because, I mean, she was the one that said that they would just have to bring her in for a year to be able to get, and then they would cut her off again. Like that, I mean, the mom is more than an enabler. She's part of it. She's right there with Angela. Angela was older. Was that right?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah, Angela. That's one of the other shocking things in this too, is that she
2 years.
2 years older.
So they're not very far apart.
I thought there was a bigger age difference between them, but I guess if they were fighting in the halls at school, that makes sense. But Angela is definitely an ascon one. Also evil. And yeah, Mom's right there with her, for sure. Dad, you don't really hear a lot about in this, but...
Maybe he believes whatever the wife tells him.
It doesn't matter. He's allowed this to happen. He's right there with him, too.
Yeah, I know. I agree. It's disgusting, actually.
Can you imagine, like, one of our kids being completely cut off because of something that one of the other kids was saying, just completely being cut out of our lives, and then trying to pull them back in just to use their uterus?
No, it like legitimately disgusts me.
How do these people not feel any kind of remorse, or like, how do they not recognize evil? I guess that's the biggest confusing thing for me. How does this seem okay?
I mean, maybe the mom is evil too, and
maybe
found
that's
herself
where Angela
within
got it.
Angela, yeah. I mean, I don't know. That's the fact that they just cut off the other daughter, and how, like, bravo to her for going on and living somewhat of a normal life
in spite of them.
Yeah, I mean, she literally had nothing. From what we understand, she had nothing when she walked out and met somebody and was able to have a relationship and actually marry that person, because that could have gone a completely different direction, having lived a childhood like this.
OP, in the story, you have our deepest sympathy for having to live a childhood like this, but also our admiration for finding stability and happiness in spite of the craziness that you grew up in. And you're doing the right thing by going no contact with anyone. Like, you cannot let these people into your life at all.
No, it almost is a scary amount of like the fact that she wanted her sister to, like, just wanted to basically use her uterus and her husband. Like, I would never let her around my family, around my kids. Like, what kind of poison would she tell her children? Like, I wonder, I mean, this post I think was about a month old. So, like, I wonder if they tried to contact her any further. Why wouldn't they just use a surrogate from an agency?
Because they don't want someone else's trash baby.
But it wouldn't be somebody else. I mean, I guess maybe she's not able to. Yeah,
it sounds basically like they're wanting
them to just give them a baby.
OP to conceive and then just hand a baby over.
Woo! Yeah. That's even worse. I thought this was like an IVF, like, carry my egg for me, but use your husband's sperm. That's even worse.
So whereas in the beginning of this, based on the title, my sister is infertile and I'm glad, that makes you immediately think that OP is some kind of twisted asshole here, but she's absolutely justified. I mean, the smart play here is to just cut them out of your life. Never relive this. Like, don't let your mind go here, so don't talk about it. That would be the easy thing to do. Maybe you've gone through a lot of therapy to be able to cope with it and accept it, but...
this is like a change your name,
move away, kind of thing.
Never tell anyone where you live, because these people sound utterly crazy. I think someone in some of the comments had said restraining order because of the level of scariness that's going on here.
Yeah, you probably have enough evidence gathered at this point to file a restraining order. Wow. Okay. That's really messed up, and it's great to know that kind of evil really exists out there. Just really comforting, right?
I mean, the parents, like you said, are the worst assholes in this story, and Angela's like the worst that we've seen, but the parents are even worse than her.
She's evil, but they enabled her evil ways and sacrificed like a good child for that evil.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, and after the mom's comment, then you know that she wasn't just duped, she was a part of it.
Yeah. Story number 5. This is, am I the astronaut for not acting impressed with my wife's accomplishment?
I do have to say that I have not read this story.
Okay, this is one Tony found for us. He mentioned it briefly to me, so I have like a Cliff's Notes version of what's coming.
I have no idea.
I'm ahead of Candy Thunder this time.
I just copied and pasted it into the podcast doc.
Well, you're going to have fun with this one. You ready?
I'm so ready.
My 28 male wife, 26 female, and I have been married for close to 7 years. We currently have 5 kids together, 6 male, 4 male, 3 female, and my wife gave birth to fraternal twins, son and daughter, a year and a half ago. Oh, wow. So 6, 4, 3, and twins that are a year and a half old. My wife intended to graduate high school the year we got married, but life got in the way. My dad had given me an investor relations type of role at his company, so we were traveling a lot, and then after that, our kids needed our attention. After our twins were born, my wife was bedridden for longer than we and even the doctors expected. Since we had to hire extra hands to do the childcare tasks that involved mobility, my wife had some time on her hands. Her mother told her that her friend who proctors at a testing center said they give GED tests basically every week, at least across the state of Idaho, and that she should dust off her general education knowledge. She started browsing her laptop and decided to enroll in a GED prep class online. It seemed she was better at self-paced learning than classroom learning, because the stuff they were testing her on came way easier to her now than it did then, even though she's been away from structured classroom instruction for many years now. Even after she was back on her feet, she'd be studying for it after she dropped the older two off to their respective schools. I would see what she was studying and it looked pretty rudimentary, and I knew that getting a GED basically means nothing, and that she probably wouldn't be able to apply it to anything career-wise, or commit full-time to community college, where I doubt the job prospects for students are that great right now either. So my wife ended up taking the test, and the other day she bounced into the room and said, "Yes, I passed. I knew she would, since she was doing well on the practice tests, and the GED consistently tests on the same rudimentary topics. I did not gripe at her, but merely nodded at her and went back to answering an important email from a client. My wife seemed to get upset, and I asked her what was wrong. She said I didn't seem that excited, and I said, it's great that she passed, but I have been telling her that it was easy and no big deal. But if she needed something to prove herself she knew the high school concepts, I guess the money was well spent. She got even more upset and said she worked very hard, and this was the essential building blocks to being able to start a career. Am I the astronaut? My wife passed her GED test, but she wasn't exactly graduating from college. It wouldn't be for at least 15 years. I just didn't see the immediate applicability to her test, but I'm glad she had something to challenge her while she was coming off being unable to fully care for kids."
Wow. Well, that last sentence just makes him an even bigger asshole.
Everything, just the way this guy talks, just the way this guy writes, is like emitting asshole vibes, right? He just seems like a huge douchebag. Just the way he writes makes me think he's a huge...
Well, and his wife has been pregnant for basically the last 7 years, and finally did something for herself, and he doesn't even acknowledge it. Like,
and remember the initial subject line: "Am I the astronaut for not acting impressed with my wife's accomplishments?" In quotation marks here.
We've had a lot of assholes today, but this might be the biggest one. Honestly,
this is the biggest douchebag asshole.
Like, there's like the asshole like sign is like blinking above his head. Wow. I wonder.
So also, having 5 kids, 2 of them who happen to be at the same time, like, cool story, bro. Not that impressive,
right?
So applying yourself, and because you weren't able to finish high school because we were having kids and stuff, going back and checking that box and conquering that feat, this many years after the fact, which took hard work. Nice job.
Yeah. It does take hard work, because you don't remember everything you learned in high school. Like, you just don't. That falls out of your head once you pick a major, or you pick your career path. you make room for that information, but so
getting any kind of certification or getting tested on anything, it's a similar kind of process. And I'm sure in his job with investor relations, he's got to go through certification programs and that kind of thing too. I'm sure he feels proud of himself whenever he
clearly doesn't need grammar in his job. To get back to that email that he was writing to a client, so he could produce more run-on sentences without commas.
Grammarly installed so that he can just automatically get that fixed. Clearly wasn't using it while he was writing this, or maybe he's just using the douchebag thesaurus and trying to make it sound as dickheaded as possible.
He's like, where I doubt she would get a job. He's like, I doubt this, I doubt that. She doesn't need it. Just get back to work and take care of the kids.
Yeah, he took every opportunity to shit on everything that she is.
This guy is a giant asshole.
Yep, huge asshole.
It seems like somebody I would have dated when I was stupid. I think I might have dated this guy.
I think I just shot snot out my nose. Yeah.
I had a douchebag type. If you're out there, this might be you. So I'm very, very glad that I didn't stay in those relationships.
Yeah, you leveled up to a whole new kind of douchebag. Dusty Thunder here.
You are awesome. This just makes me mad. Like, she's doing something for herself. Like, she has been only a mom for the past 7 years, and she did something for herself, and he couldn't even muster up it didn't even have to be real congratulations. Just muster up something to tell your wife that you're proud of her.
Yeah, I mean, do you love your wife?
It doesn't sound like it.
Do you support your wife? Do you want her to feel supported? Do you want to have a successful relationship? Because nothing this guy is doing right now points to him giving any shits. Well, and this is also the kind of guy that like we've had some stories recently that comes home and doesn't expect that they have to do anything because they're the financial provider, right? It seems like this is the kind of guy who would pull the same kind of shit and be like, oh, well, you don't do anything else. What's your job? You do all this. It seems like this kind of guy. OP here is the dad. That's right. So his wife, she was bedridden with the twins for longer than they expected. And he even used that against her.
Right.
It doesn't sound like he has any level of respect for her at all. I mean, 6, 4, 3, and twins that are a year and a half old. That's
a lot of work.
Well,
that's nonstop work.
Yeah. It sounds like, if he could have it his way, he'd keep her pregnant and barefoot in the kitchen. That's Seems gross. Like this kind of asshole.
Yeah. Thinking that she's less of a person. Like, that's what he wants her to feel.
Yeah. She's less of a person because she didn't graduate high school because he got her pregnant.
That's what it sounds like.
Cool story, bro.
That's even grosser. Like, that gives me ugh.
Yeah. Well, what advice would you give to the wife in this scenario? My advice to OP here is to stop being an asshole.
Yeah, pull your head out of your ass and quit thinking only about yourself.
I don't see him changing, though. His worldview is completely self-absorbed. His wife and their 5 kids, what advice would you give her to try to survive some kind of asshole like this?
I would say that you need to say exactly how you feel. I mean, obviously this story
Not that he's going to respect it.
No, but if you say it enough, he might, begin to understand, but he doesn't seem like the type that even cares. I mean, if we're not going to say divorce, run away, like if we're not going to throw those flags and try to say there's something to work on, I think that she obviously needs to speak up, tell him how she's feeling. Like you can't expect to have a healthy relationship if she's not going to communicate that this hurt her feelings.
Yeah. I mean,
Did she speak up? Wait, will you go back up?
She got upset.
My wife seemed to get upset, but she didn't say anything. So if
she said that he didn't seem that excited, and that was pretty much it. She got upset and said that she got even more upset and said that she worked very hard, and this was an essential building block to her being able to start a career.
So she's trying to make something of herself. She spent the last 7 years taking care of kids that they've created, and now she wants to do something for her.
Yeah.
And you're right, he doesn't want her to do it. Being indifferent about it.
It's probably more of a control thing than it is anything, right? He wants her to stay right where she is. He doesn't want her to become independent. He wants her to stay dependent on him and wants to keep her right where he wants her. So maybe he doesn't even realize why he's doing that too. Because how he's treating her is like, good job, you accomplished what every freaking high school kid in America accomplishes. Woohoo. But the undertone there is probably, I don't want you to become independent.
Yeah.
What a dick. I knew I didn't like this guy just by the way he writes, and that's a shitty thing to say. I'm probably an ASCon 3 for saying that. You say I'm at ASCon 3 all the time, though, right?
I see this, and like, we're not perfect. We do not have a perfect relationship. You know, we have our fights, like we have our differences, but if I was excited about something and I came and told you that something had worked well for me, like, you would congratulate me, you would give me a hug, you would give me a kiss, you would do something to celebrate, whether that was going to get me a Diet Coke or like like, that's my version of flowers.
Oh, I care about your happiness, you know? And that's probably the biggest difference here, is that I don't think just doesn't care about her happiness, he just doesn't want her to have it.
Right. She, like you said, he wants her dependent on him for what seems like everything. But I mean, if my advice to her is to keep going down the path that she's going down and have your career and start doing things that are for you. I mean, she's done everything for the family. So I think it's okay to say start doing stuff that helps you, makes you feel like more of a whole person and not just a mom.
Right.
So I think that's so important for women.
Also, you're going to reach the point of independence where you have the choice to not deal with this ass bag anymore.
Yeah, true. That's what I'm saying. Keep going down this path and see where it leads, and see what kind of independence you form on your own.
Right.
But go from there.
You know, the further she gets down the path, the more opposition to it he's going to throw
for sure.
up. It's going to get worse and worse and worse.
Can you imagine if she had a job outside the home?
Oh, wow.
Or maybe we're reading too much into this. I don't know, but
I always think that, but I think our job here is to identify possibilities. And for this, it's identify possible paths to a solution. And for her, that is, I don't care if it does take 15 years. You know what? Because like in 15 years, you're still going to have kids in the home. But
right.
If in 16 and a half years, you have the ability to be completely independent, at that point, even your twins are 18 and off to college or doing whatever, and you would have the choice to not have to stay here at the beck and call of Mr. Assbag OP.
I mean, I can say that if I was in this situation, I wouldn't want to be in this. I wouldn't want to be in this situation. I would do whatever I needed to do to get out of this situation,
even if it took 15 years.
Took a long time. Yeah.
At least be moving in that direction
and
to give yourself a choice.
I don't know. I feel like if you do something and you're proud of yourself, that if the person who's supposed to be your life partner, I mean, they should be proud right along with you.
Absolutely. You and I support each other's passions, and this is him seemingly just being opposed to her happiness and independence.
Oh yeah, and it just seems like she's done nothing but raise kids, and she finally did something for herself, and he was like, yeah, no big deal.
Yeah.
And get back in there and do what I need you to be doing.
Get back in there and make some more babies and lasagna.
Yeah, it's gross.
What a dick. This last story is, am I the astronaut for asking my wife to respect my title, a pilot? I need the opinions of AV geeks and pilots on a matter involving my wife. All caps, I am completely serious and I need help. My wife and I, together for 5 years, married for 2, no kids, have an amazing, happy relationship. I can't recall a single time we've ever argued to the point of a breakup or divorce.
Well, I mean, you're still together,
right? So yeah, thanks for noting that. This issue, we're assholes. We really are.
Well, at least we're rolling together. Now. Yeah.
This issue, however, is causing me to reconsider the health of our relationship. Since my wife and I have been together, I have worked as a manager for a restaurant chain. I am an extremely passionate aviation enthusiast in my free time. I have spent thousands of dollars on flight textbooks, sim gear, and even built my own A330 setup. I've never actually flown a plane or started flight training, but I have considered it for a long time. Even though my skills are not a career, I consider myself as adept or possibly more knowledgeable than the average pilot. That being said, here's where the problem arises. My wife and I were being invited to one of her male coworkers' house for a barbecue. My wife is in senior software tech for a COVID startup. She's worked there since 2020, a lucky catch after she was laid off from her previous job due to the virus. It was my first time meeting many of her now close coworkers due to COVID and working from home. I had assumed she'd talked about me before, but as we were cycling through introductions, I became less sure. We make our way down the line to the host of the party, a new male hire that she has grown platonically close with. We exchange casual conversation, and Greg, host, asks what I do for a living. My wife chimes in with, he manages a insert fast food chain. It certainly comes with some benefits. I'm assuming she was referring to free food, in a voice that implied nothing was wrong with what she said. I very quickly corrected her and told him that I'm a pilot. My wife already knows how insecure I am about my job and how I'd rather be introduced by my hobby. I've earned the title of pilot through my 500 plus hours on a sim and thousands of dollars put into my craft. I think it is incredibly disrespectful for her to not acknowledge my skills and training. Just because I don't have the title of pilot on an overpriced piece of paper doesn't mean I'm not a pilot. I laughed it off with Greg, told him under my breath that my wife was often forgetful, which I'm sure he's realized just from working with her. He seemed to brush it off casually. At this point, I'm fuming, but I don't go much farther than exchanging some nasty glances with my wife for the rest of the night. As we pack into the car to leave, the argument starts. She feels as if I don't deserve my title as a pilot because I'm not professional. I told her she is completely insensitive to the work I've done, and she will never understand what it's like to study so much. She's currently on the couch as I type this. Am I really the asshole for asking to be respected?
Oh, there's so many thoughts. Like, if you're not a pilot, you're not a pilot. That's the main thing. I don't... If you don't have the paper, I mean, like, would you introduce me if I was like into scrapbooking and be like, this is my wife, she scrapbooks for a living, like, even though I have a job at a marketing firm.
I play a lot of Call of Duty. I'm a special operator.
I mean, but I will say that I believe the wife should be encouraging him to go and take the test and log the hours and become an actual pilot. I mean, they don't have kids. He spent thousands of dollars on all of this stuff, so why not actually go do it?
He has a passion behind it for sure. I mean, the fact that he's never even done like a test flight is concerning. Like, he's never piloted an actual craft.
Wait, that says he spent 500 plus hours
on a simulator.
Yeah, so why not go do it?
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't, if I had a hobby that I was passionate about, I wouldn't expect you to introduce me by that hobby, and I know that you would feel the same way. If you wanted to do something, which you actually are interested in flying and everything, but you would never expect me to.
Yeah, the flip side of that is that I don't think your job defines who you are, unless you're following your passion.
I mean, but the question was, what do you do for a living?
What do you do for a living? Yeah, I mean, if that's the question, then that's, I mean, be honest. I think inflating yourself using something that it's not your living. I understand why he's doing it, because he's very sensitive about, or he's very insecure about his real job, which
right.
My gut says is silly, but he feels how he feels. And
right.
we don't know everything behind that. And we can't say he's the asshole for feeling away. So like, he feels insecure about that. I get it. She should support his passions, like you said.
Agreed. And I think she should encourage him to take it that one step further. He doesn't have to. Or maybe he can go be a pilot in a commercial aircraft. I mean, I don't know what he wants to do.
It's probably a time issue for him, because if he manages a chain of local restaurants, like, going into the actual pilot course is, like, for a private pilot's license, is there's a lot of time involved. Yeah. You have to log a lot of hours in an actual aircraft. He
said he put 500 plus hours into this. So, I mean, at that rate, I mean, time.
But those 500 plus hours could be in the middle of the night, whereas his actual aircraft training cannot be.
If you want to do something and you are able to invest money and time, which he has already done, I feel like you should go do it if that's what you want to introduce yourself as. Yeah. And I think that the wife should be encouraging him to do this, because she obviously sees how passionate he is about it.
This is probably an everyone sucks here. I
was going to say that, because look at what he said, that his wife is often forgetful, which I'm sure he's realized just from working with her.
They just took turns shitting on each other.
Like, and then he said all he did was give her nasty glances for the rest of the night. I'm like, what? That's mature. Yeah. That's real mature.
Yeah, they seem like they really like each other a lot. Did he talk about their relationship?
Together for 5, married for 2, no kids.
Never had a big issue.
They haven't had an issue that caused a divorce.
Yeah,
which is why they're still married.
Good job. This is a big issue, and if you don't get at least some kind of structure to a solution behind it, it will end up destroying you, because you have an insecurity and a passion here that is not being respected by your wife, but also you return fire and just shit on her too. So you guys can't take turns shitting on each other, because that's just going to destroy you. Like, you've got to be able to sit down and communicate with her and say, this is this important to me, and I need you to respect this. And if you don't, then we have a problem. And she has to decide if she loves you enough to respect your passion and help cultivate it, right?
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, if I seriously decided that that I wanted to get my private pilot's license and said, like, this is my one real mission right now, you would fully support it.
Yeah. I mean, if
I'm
it was
also realistic, and like that has been on my radar as a goal.
I wasn't
before.
like very like.
It has been on my radar before. However, it's also, I understand the time needs with it, and for me now, like as an early retirement thing, like if I can retire early, this is what I want to do.
We have 5 kids though.
Yeah,
they don't have any kids,
that's
and
true.
I'm not saying that. Like, I mean, but at this time, they don't have the time commitment that kids take. If he really wants to do it, I feel like he would have already done it. But I wonder what is holding him back from. If you're insecure about your job and you don't like what you do
something
figure
different.
out a way to change it. I mean,
if your job makes you insecure enough and embarrassed enough to have to be introduced by your hobby to feel okay, then you're probably in the wrong job for sure.
Right.
Like, a job shouldn't make you feel like that.
I mean, figure out a way to take a different job while you go to flight school or whatever it's called to become an actual pilot.
Piloting right now is like his side hustle, right? And he's on the woodshed for it. He's learning still. He's in the learning phase, but it's still his side hustle. And I'm a big supporter of side hustles. Like, this is our side hustle.
Right.
You know what I mean? We have our agency, but this is a side project for us, and it's a passion project because, you know, it's mathematically not worth the time that we put into it, but we do it because we see opportunity with it and because we have a passion for it, just like he applies his time there.
But let me ask you this. What if we made all these videos and like spent all this time doing it, but never actually put the videos out in the world? And they just sat on a computer and we did nothing with them. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the same concept.
That would be and then
that would be a waste of time.
And then I asked you to introduce me as a content creator.
On TikTok.
Yeah.
TikTok guy with no followers because you didn't even create the channel.
Right. That would be the equivalent. It would be the equivalent of like creating all this stuff and never publishing it and asking you to introduce me as a content creator.
You're like, but if I did publish it, I could have 500,000 followers.
Yeah. You never know, right? But I mean, he needs to. He needs to get the balls to take the leap. But in the relationship that he's in right now, she's not helping make that happen.
No, and he's obviously a very insecure person. If his default was to automatically sling insults at his wife because she didn't introduce him by a hobby,
doesn't seem like a super healthy relationship.
No, but he says they have an amazing, happy relationship.
It's because he's spending all of his time on the flight simulator. So they can't fight.
Well, she's developing platonic relationships with new coworkers.
There are some red flags going on here.
That was a weird little drop in right there.
There are some red flags going on here.
Maybe he just said that so that we would not get the cheating vibe.
Yeah. We could just go ahead and get rid of that right now. There are solution paths here, but it's going to take some open communication and support from both of you for each other. And man, if your job makes you feel like this right now, if working the direction that you're working is so that you can, you know, someday break yourself from that, cool. Just do it. Like, don't put yourself in a position where you're like a closet pilot, which is kind of what you are right now, right?
Right. I mean, I don't think you can be introduced as a pilot if you haven't actually flown an actual plane. I don't think that's a fair.
If you don't have the certification, I don't think you can.
That's not fair to other pilots that have actually done the certification and done the course and flown planes.
Right. I mean, this is the equivalent of saying, you know, someone who spends a lot of time on WebMD is a doctor.
That's what I was going to say. You don't want a nurse that hasn't gone to nursing school to actually start your IV.
Yeah. I mean, you can still be more knowledgeable than the most doctors or think you are. It doesn't make you a doctor, right?
Right.
Like, going through the program and testing it and getting the certificate is what makes the rest of the world agree that you are that.
No, but I truly, if you came to me and said, this is something that I actually want to do, like I need this in my life, then I feel like we would figure out a way to make it happen. Yeah. Because if that's important to you, then it's important to our family.
Right. I mean, it's important to your happiness. I don't know. This just seems like a poo-flinging relationship here.
It does. It's.
They don't talk about how old they are, though, do they?
Did they say it in the first?
I don't think so. They just said that they have been married for 5 years. Or together for 5, married for 2. They don't talk about... And this may be an age thing, right? I mean, it may be that they're just young and they haven't learned that part of it yet. But they've got to support each other. And right now, it's just... I don't think either one of them supports each other. So either get on board with supporting your partner's passions or find a different partner.
I feel like everyone kind of sucks here.
Yep. Everyone does suck. Candy Thunder, you did an amazing job with me. And I know you were nervous about doing this, but I feel like, you're a natural talking about this kind of stuff. And we talk about it even if we're not talking about it on camera. So just cameras being here to witness it and to share it with the rest of the world. I'm super glad that you finally worked up the courage to do.
Yeah. It took me 6 months.
Yeah. It took a little time. And just so everybody knows, this was Candy Thunder's decision to jump on and do the show. This was not mine. I didn't ask her to do this. She knew she had an open invitation to jump in and do this whenever she wanted to. So she finally decided that the time was right and jumped in to do it. So you shake your head no.
I'm not here on my own free will.
Don't get people thinking that I'm forcing you to do this.
Never. He cannot force me to do anything.
This is absolutely true.
I told him when somebody said that about you dictating to me
and
what we should do.
It was during the Dusties whenever I pulled you on live.
And I was like, do they should I say I wear the pants in the relationship? And I said I actually wear overalls. Like, they're not even pants. Like, they're bigger than pants. I'm just kidding. Don't put that in. Don't put that in.
I'm 100% fine with it. Because
I'm not going to call them pants. Like, I direct our schedule. I take care of the finances, the things, like, but you have your own areas of strength that we work together with. Nobody really wears overalls.
We're a pantsless family. Nobody wears pants. No, what I was going to say is that you allow me to focus on the things that I'm good at, and that is a huge thing for me. Is that I have a creative and strategic role with the agency, and I have parts of the agency where I'm really effective, and I have parts where I'm not effective at all, and that's where you pick up the ball, and you're strong in those parts. And just like the family side of things, like, I have things that I'm really strong with, and you have things that you're really strong with, and they're not the same things. So it's like we're able to play as a team. From what I hear of other relationships and what I see from other stories, and then what I see with us, like, you and I are probably more of a team than most relationships are. Right. And the fact that we run a business together and we do this together, even if I'm the monkey on camera most of the time, you are behind the scenes just as involved. So it's everything that we're doing as a team.
But that didn't happen like right out of the gate. Like, that took a lot of work to get to a comfortable spot in our relationship, because for the first couple of years it was, nonstop fighting, and like, we'd get in a good spot and then we'd start fighting again. And it was just like trying to figure out how to communicate effectively and how to, live with someone, and then bringing kids into the mix. Like, it was just,
blending
that was
families
hard.
isn't easy.
It was hard.
Learning people isn't easy.
Right. And I'm sure there were times where we both thought about, giving up. Like, I'm the messy person. I'm cluttery. And he is like a neat freak. And we've just learned to, he said he works around my stuff, but the house is clean. We don't have like a dirty house, but it was, that's a compromise that we've made, like, that you've made. There's like one clean room in our house at one time. And then it's like, I'll clean another room, and then the other one gets trashed.
I like it whenever, so I have like a little office set up at home in a guest bedroom, but it's like my sacred night shift workspace. And it's, you remember what having a toddler was like for those of you with kids, and those of you who have toddlers right now. It's like Navy Thunder thrives in chaos, and as soon as you organize something, she will follow right behind you, intentionally destroy it, and then sit in her mess like she's Scrooge McDuck sitting in a pile of gold, and just be like, yes, this is the way it should be. This makes me feel good now. And that Navy Thunder mess has now invaded my safe space, my studio. And I legitimately get anxiety. Like, my chest tightens up whenever those messes like start creeping into my safe spaces. But as a parent of a toddler, you just have to learn to deal with it.
Whenever I know when, like, I can hear in your voice that you've had a really long day, and I know that it would mean something to you to come home and see that, like, the island is cleaned off and like clean, and like, I know that that's something that would mean something to you, and that's like, I guess, our love languages. Like, you, like, I feel those things, I know those things, and you know those things about me. Like, you can feel when I can tell about
when
to boil
Mama needs a fresh Diet Coke,
a Target trip by myself.
Yep.
Like, yeah. So, I mean, we pick up on those things.
And
We
that's
do
the
have
part that takes time. You have to learn to read each other.
one of the questions, the last one was, who had to make the bigger adjustments or changes in the relationship? And I honestly, I mean, I was going to say me, because in the beginning, I truly, like, I let myself, I mean, it's easy for me to fall into negative thoughts. Like, and so in the beginning of our relationship, when things were really hard, like, I let those negative thoughts control, like, everything about my reactions, like, how I felt, like, everything. And it wasn't until, like, I put effort into controlling negative thoughts that I feel like it was, like, a big change in our relationship.
Yeah, it definitely was. What was the book that you...
The Untethered Soul. And it was like, I walked into a doctor's appointment and it was a nurse practitioner, and she said, I can just feel like stress radiating off of you. And she mentioned, and I was like, I cried. I'm like, I am stressed. And I didn't even tell her what I was stressed about. And she's like, read this book. It really changed my life. And it was like, after chapter 1, I was like, holy shit.
And you have now, I've personally seen you recommend that book to a dozen people. Yeah,
probably 24 at this point. But, and everyone that I've recommended it to has also said, and I mean, it's not even like, there's parts of the book that I probably wouldn't like resonate with, but there's the majority of the book is like learning to control that voice inside your head. And to me, that was the biggest change that I made, that I feel like if I hadn't made that change, that we may not even be married at this point.
Right.
I mean, you can convince yourself that this reality exists when that's not even what's happening.
Absolutely.
So, and I feel like a lot of these situations are people that
just let those voices take control.
For sure, yeah. I mean, we all have that. We all have that worst case scenario thing playing out in our head, but
yeah,
it's choosing to...
Are you to listen to that voice or not? That's
choosing to let it control you, or you take control. So
I think the biggest adjustment for me was I came out of a relationship where it was a toxic environment, and it's just, these were two personalities that should have never been in a relationship together. And when conflict happened, all I could do was create distance to try to keep it from escalating, because if I stayed there, it was just going to continue to escalate. Mm-hmm. So I learned that behavior of when conflict happened to create distance. And then in our relationship, I brought that behavior where when conflict happened, I would create distance to not say something stupid and try to be able to think, and to just try to put it on pause. And it's like, stop the bleeding by creating distance, and stop, taking jabs at each other. But for you, that was the most harmful thing I could do.
Right.
So it took a long time for me to...
Again, those negative thoughts, like when you stepped away or, you left, like it was like automatic, like negative thoughts. And I just went to the worst place possible. And I mean, now it's like you can recognize that and know, oh, he doesn't love me. He doesn't care about me. He doesn't take me seriously. Like he doesn't. And, you can convince yourself of anything. I truly believe that. And
obviously that wasn't the case. I had just learned based on my previous relationship to create distance, because that was the safest option.
Right.
It was to just create distance. And I don't think it's my reflex now.
No, it's not at all.
But it's something that I had to relearn. You have to get unmade on a lot of bad behaviors that you bring into a relationship from previous relationships. And that's probably one of the most difficult things to do, but it's something we've both had to do a lot of. And it's something that I think everyone has to do.
Right.
Or should do.
Right.
It's just doing it means that you give your relationship a chance, and not doing it chooses not to.
Well, and I had to learn when to give you space, and you had to learn how to not, like, so now we have our like routine now, like we know
we got a system.
Yeah. We know how to fight.
Yeah. I mean, learning to fight productively is something that takes time.
Yes.
Right. Because in the beginning you're just trying to inflict damage on each other, or running. And just learning how to be effective with it is a communication thing. That's why year one is so hard. It's because you don't know how to communicate through conflict. You have to learn. It's like a trial by fart. Trial by fart.
Trial by fart. I thought that's what you said.
Trial by far. Trial by. It's like a trial by fire. It's like you can't learn it until you do it, and continue to improve upon it as you go. And now, I mean, like Candy Thunder said, we're nowhere near perfect, and we have plenty of thaws.
What's happening to you right now?
Words are failing me. We have plenty of flaws. We've got plenty of things that I'm sure we can improve upon, but we actively try to improve upon things.
Here's my list.
She brought a list? Oh my God.
I have a Google Keep note of
all the stuff I'm doing wrong. Keeping a log.
No, I don't have time for that.
She's like, no, Google Keep doesn't have the ability to save that much information.
Maybe we don't actually have a healthy relationship. We're just so busy now that we don't have time.
That we don't have time to talk about our problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Until people
true.
ask on podcast content topics for us to talk about our biggest screw ups.
Now,
Thanks for that one, guys.
I think something, and I don't know how much of this we're going to keep, but something is super important and that was like something that you needed was for me to say what I mean and not just passive aggressively and not to just assume that you know what I need.
Right.
Like if I need something, I shouldn't expect you to know exactly what that thing is.
There was a really good example of that, and we can close with this. It ties in with the story that I actually posted today as we're recording this. It was about gaming.
Mm-hmm.
And I jump on and play Call of Duty with Candy's brother, Ryan. During Christmas break, which was like, we didn't work for like 4 or 5 days straight. I played like 4 or 5 nights straight. And at that point, like I was choosing that too often. And you finally let me know what that choice meant to you and what you were taking from that, and what you needed from it. And, I could have been like the guy was in the story that we read today and gotten defensive. I could have tried to defend my actions and tried to like protect my me time or whatever. But I realized I had chosen me time too often, and had not watered our relationship during that period of time. And you need that relationship to be watered. So I said I would do better. I said I understood and I would do better, and did. It's the follow through that I think is the big thing. It's you let me know what you meant and what you needed, and that gave me the opportunity to make it right. And yes, I should have noticed in the first place, but if you need something and your significant other isn't noticing, then you can't expect them to read your mind.
Right.
Being able to speak up and give them the opportunity to fix it. Like you started giving me opportunities to fix it instead of just being like, why isn't he noticing this? And
I'm just going to get pissed off. And I would have done that. Like year 1, year 2, I totally would have done that. And I would have carried it with me and I would have been shitty to you, like snappy and like, so I think that's growth.
Yeah.
I was just like, hey.
You give me the chance to fix things.
Yeah.
That's a huge deal.
And I said it in a way that was like not combative. Like I need this or I need that. It was, hey, this is how this is making me feel. Like, do you mind if we do something different the next night? Yeah. It wasn't
and it made
I
a big
need all
difference.
your attention on me all the time.
This is here, mother.
Yeah.
But choosing to play the game.
What do you get out of that?
Piece of shit. What's Call of Duty going to bring you in life? Nothing.
I play a game on my phone and it brings me peace and solitude and I absolutely enjoy it.
Well,
because it's mindless. Like I don't have to think about it.
I started playing the new Hogwarts Legacy game 2 days ago, and I'm going to get Candy Thunder in on it because she's a Potterhead. And right now, the problem with that game is, unlike Call of Duty, where I can jump in and play it with 15 minutes and do a multiplayer round, you got to have a good solid hour to make any progress in Hogwarts Legacy and one of the quests or side quests. So that's going to be difficult, but still, it's like I have to limit myself and say, I can only choose that like once or twice a week because I have other responsibilities and other things that I care about, and I have to make sure that I'm watering those things too. You can't just completely abandon something.
Right.
So we've grown. I think us working together, us running a business together, and doing this as a team too has given us more opportunity to grow. And maybe it's because we had so many more things to work through than the common or the average couple does because we do all this together.
And there was no break for us. Like, I mean, I saw you at work, I saw you at home. Like in the beginning, it was just like trying to figure out how to navigate that. It wasn't just a normal situation.
Yeah.
It was a lot. So.
Yeah. We experienced everything together.
But now I can't imagine it like any other way than how it is now. And so I'm so glad we worked our butts off.
I don't think that we would be able to accomplish what we accomplish if we didn't do it together.
Agreed.
Like the level of understanding that you have for the time that I put in on things and being able to do night shift after everybody goes to bed, like you get it because you're in it. Right. And likewise, like what you go through, I get it because I'm in it too. So we have a level of understanding that a lot of couples don't. And if you are in that kind of position where you're not going through that with your significant other, just try to put yourself in their shoes and understand as much as possible. We're very fortunate in that regard where we don't have to because we're in it with each other. But we will go ahead and close with that. Is there anything that you would like to say to everybody, Candy Thunder?
No.
Your very first podcast, your very first structured time on camera.
I did it.
You done did it.
That was weak. Ow. Almost smacked me in the face.
You said the first one was weak, so I had to bring the thunder on the second one.
Okay, here.
We'll just fist bump it. There we go. I am extremely proud of Candy Thunder for getting over her fear of being on camera and doing this kind of thing and jumping in and doing it on a podcast with me. So thank you so much for finally jumping in and
I was
doing
supposed
this.
to be the first guest.
Yep.
And I just was like,
I'm not doing it. It was a matter of great debate that evening.
Oh, he was like, it was the plan. That was the plan. And that plan fell through. And he was like,
you know how I feel about my plans.
Yeah. It was, I'm like, it's fine. He's like, but I already said the person we filmed with, it was Mo. And he's like, we already said episode 2. And I'm like, it's fine. Just edit that part out.
Yeah. So I had to re-edit episode 2 of the podcast differently to try to get rid of that. It was, yeah.
It worked out though.
It's fine. It's all fine. And I get it. I mean, I'm around cameras and lights and this stuff all the time. So for me, it's just, I'm just pointing them in a different direction. Right. Because normally I'm behind them. And it is a little bit different.
I mean, you do the voiceover work and
yeah.
Like you're comfortable with your voice on, like hearing yourself. And
yeah, it doesn't bother me at all because I've heard it.
You have such a good voice. It's so smooth.
Thank you.
What are you, Mandy Thunder? No, Man Candy Thunder.
Mandy Thunder.
Man Candy Thunder.
Man Candy Thunder. That's it. Yeah.
You are Man Candy.
I'm gonna use these dulcet tones to seduce you later.
Please edit that out.
I'm gonna lay you down by the fire. Turn the lights down real low.
You are an attractive man.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You are a sexy woman.
Okay. Let's turn this off.
Time to turn the cameras off, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh my gosh.
All right, we'll see you next time. We hope you enjoyed this episode
37.
I don't know. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Reddit Set It podcast with Dusty Thunder and Candy Thunder, or more accurately, with Candy Thunder and Dusty Thunder. You come first.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. We've had a blast here, and of course, hopefully we can get Candy Thunder on camera with us doing another podcast again. It may be a few months, but that is the plan. So
6 years later.
6 years later. I'll be completely white bearded by then, but we'll see what happens. Thank you so much for tuning in. Of course, we have daily posts on TikTok and YouTube, behind the scenes stuff on Instagram. We have the audio podcast and compilations coming out. Compilations come out weekly. Podcast comes out monthly-ish. On all podcast channels and on YouTube as well. Jot Coffee you can enjoy with the code Dusty20 and save 20% on. What am I missing?
Well, you spit it all out there. You're good.
That was quite a bit.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate it. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Uh-huh. Bye-bye.
Hold on one second. I just need a deep breath. Is it okay to stop you?
Yeah.
Okay. I just need to.
You need to woo-saw?
Mm-hmm.
Is this like that scary? Is it the lights?
No, it's just like having to be in constant conversation. You know that I don't like to talk a lot, so.
We're on our first story.
I know.
We got a long way to go.
I know. What should I do with my face when you're reading? Is it gonna be seen, or is it just gonna be you? Can I relax and like?
Yeah,
my nose is itchy?
Relax and do whatever you want. I mean, on the YouTube horizontal version of this, it's going to show us both the whole time. On the TikTok versions of this, it will be like one at a time.
Okay.
But I mean, just be natural. You'll be all right.
Okay.
You'll be good. Here, let me make sure that you're still. See, there you are.
Okay. So do you just want me to look at the computer screen, or should I just stare longingly into the camera?
Yeah. Okay. Either of those is good.
Go for it.
I told Shiloh to grab her things, and when my mother dick, I grabbed Shiloh. Do you want to read this one? No. Okay.
No words came out.
Yeah.
I said no, but it didn't come out.
Yeah. My 39.
39.
I screw up a lot. Grow from it. Grow from it.
Grow from it.
Whenever our parents, God damn it, I'm up hard now. Hey, I'm back with an update. I wanted to thank all of y'all seriously. Between the weak conspiracy they've come up with, between the weak conspiracy they've tried to come up with, between the weak conspiracy they've. Since we had to hire extra she just f***ing fly. Are you shitting me right now? Place. This guy's an asshole just because of the way he writes.